Welcome to the launch of the IDB Group's initiative for advancing financial inclusion in Latin America and the Caribbean, FINLAC. This is an open to the public event with simultaneous interpretation available in English and Spanish. For those joining us via Zoom, please use the word icon at the bottom of the Zoom menu and choose the language of your preference. Bienvenidos al lanzamiento de la iniciativa del Grupo BID para promover
Welcome to the launching of the initiative to promote for FINLAC, and this is an open session with interpretation into English and Spanish. For those of you who are on Zoom, at the bottom of the screen, you can find the world icon and choose the language of your session.
CEO of IDB Invest as moderator. Mr. Scriven, the microphone is yours.
Good morning, everybody. Buen dia. Welcome to the building. Welcome to this event. I wanted to thank all of you for joining us today at IDB for the 59th meeting of the Network of Central Banks and Finance Ministries of Latin America and the Caribbean. Today, we're delighted to be here to launch what's called FINLAC, our new brand of financial inclusion initiative. Before I get into more detail of this initiative, I'd like to spend a moment to understand and intensify our efforts in financial inclusion and why this is important for Latin America and the Caribbean. We still have some grounds to cover in Latin America. Approximately 1 out of 3 adults, i.e. 27%, do not have access to formal financial services. This makes everything in daily life, everything in our daily lives more difficult. Only 43% of people use a credit card or a debit card, and at least 34% of adults do not use digital payments in their transactions. These numbers are even higher for more vulnerable groups such as women, elderly, and those living in poverty. So there's still a lot of work to bring all these people into the formal section. The good news is that financial inclusion is showing signs of improvement. For example, the use of digital payments in Latin America is increasing. That said, we still have a lot of work to go forward with this. Why is financial inclusion important? Financial inclusion can be a key vector for social economic inclusion and development to reduce inequality. Financial inclusion has shown to foster entrepreneurship, growth, gender equality, stability, contributing to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. In addition, digital technology can reach underserved populations that provide very difficult to access today, creating opportunities for education, healthcare, and building resilience within our communities. Ultimately, financial inclusion gives every individual, regardless of their social economic background, the opportunity to participate in and benefit from the global economy. The work of the IDB in financial inclusion, the IDB Group in financial inclusion. For over 3 decades, the IDB Group has been at the forefront of promoting financial inclusion in the region. Our commitment to this critical mission remains unwavered, and with today's launch of FINLAC, we are reaffirming this commitment. IDB offers resources and promotes best practices and regulatory frameworks and public policy to promote inclusive financial sector and innovative digital ecosystems. IDB Lab invests in promoting innovative projects and invests in early stage fintechs. IDB Invest provides a growth capital for proven business models to reach scale. And with the recent approved capital increase and the new business model approved by our Board of Governors, we will be mobilizing significant resources for financial inclusion in the coming year. We promote responsible finance practice that empowers financial consumers to improve their financial well-being, as well as persistent topics in our G20 meetings in Sao Paulo. We believe that this brings people into formal financial system in a way to help them lead a more balanced financial lives. As an example of our work in the financial inclusion, earlier today, we also put a memorandum of understanding in front of the BIS into actions by launching what's called the Fully Scalable Settlement Engine, our first project together. This new initiative aims to support financial inclusion in Latin America and the Caribbean by improving financial infrastructure, regulatory and institutional capacity, focusing on a triad of actions: catalytic public policies, working with central banks to enable institutional capacity, and creating the financial technology needed to help central banks thrive in this financial inclusion effort. Today, we're launching FINLAC, our new financial inclusion hub. We're officially today. FINLAC is an IDB group-wide initiative, meaning it contributes expertise of all parts of the group: IDB Public, IDB Lab, and IDB Invest. This effort not only seeks to unleash entrepreneurship and innovative potential, but also to include the most vulnerable segments of the society in this initiative. FINLAC will serve as a one-stop shop for accessing IDB resources and expertise in the financial inclusion space as a way and a platform online. It will be the central hub for stakeholders to connect with us, fostering a seamless flow of information and collaboration. This initiative serves as a comprehensive umbrella program where we have the private sector, the public sector stakeholders with us, of accessing the entire support and collaboration of the IDB group. FINLAC places a strong emphasis on identifying and addressing these obstacles to financial inclusion across critical market segments. It will help direct requests appropriately within the IDB group. I'd like to spend a moment to talk about the research that went into FINLAC. To create the new platform, this is essential for FINLAC. Our team analyzed over 100 studies, books and blogs, and organized this information into 4 priority areas as in the financial inclusion space: people and businesses, digital transformation, payments ecosystem, and open finance. We are sharing a data dashboard which consolidates at the country level all the best practices and in-depth analysis of the most 10 specific countries in the payment system. Through FINLAC, we're hoping to break down silos, leverage our collective knowledge, and create a powerful synergy to accelerate towards financial inclusion landscape. What's next? In order to create a more impact FINLAC, our first focus is driving financial inclusion through payments. We believe that this is an attractive goal to immerse potential for impact and redouble our efforts in this area. By focusing on payments, first, we're aiming to catalyze development in domestic and international economies, benefiting individuals and small businesses alike. This strategic focus on payments will serve as a powerful catalytic for broader financial inclusion and economic growth across the region. We encourage you to visit our website at iadb.org to check out everything FINLAC has to offer. To conclude, let me reiterate that IDB is very committed to financial inclusion. We have done much in the past, but we still have 1/3 of the population that do not have access to formal financial services. With the launch of FINLAC, we will reaffirm our dedication to fostering inclusive, sustainable, and innovative development. With that, I'd like to hand over the floor to my dear friend, our Chief Economist, Eric Parrado, for more details. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone, and many thanks, James, for your welcoming remarks and your insightful comments. I'm extremely happy. I am thrilled to be here and launch FINLAC. And this is an IDB Group's groundbreaking financial inclusion initiative. And I have to repeat that because this is a collaboration effort. And I would like to name it because we have worked really hard for almost 2 years. And now we are mature enough to show the results of this initiative. So I would like to mention the expertise and resources of the Connectivity Markets and Finance Division, CMF, IDB Invest, IDB Lab, the Knowledge, Innovation, and Communication Sector, HIC, the Office of Outreach and Partnership, ORP, and the Research Department. So I want to take a moment to express my deepest appreciation to my colleagues for dedication, innovative thinking, and tireless efforts in bringing this initiative forward. Your commitment to improving financial inclusion in our region is truly inspiring. So thank you very much to all my colleagues. And today we have an exciting agenda ahead of us. We will explore into the critical topic of financial inclusion in our region through two engaging discussions, two panels. The first will consider insights on advancing financial inclusion, followed by a more specific exploration and discussion regarding the role of payments in this context, as James pointed out. But before we hear from our panelists, I will share a brief overview of FINLAC and how the IDB Group will use this new initiative to drive financial inclusion in Latin America and the Caribbean. And to kick things off, let me start showing you a short video, and please go ahead and play the video.
Latin America and the Caribbean leads in financial inclusion growth. The region has seen an impressive 18.5 percentage points increase in account ownership since 2017.
At the same time, 27% of the population in Latin America and the Caribbean, that's 180 million adults, do not have a bank account.
That makes everything more difficult. Getting a loan, buying a home, saving for retirement. It is an obstacle in the fight against poverty and inequality.
Women face lower access to financial products and services, consequently, lower levels of financial inclusion.
Financial inclusion is one of the most effective tools available to reaching poor and vulnerable populations, indigenous populations, MSME, refugees, and migrants.
We advance financial inclusion, prioritizing access to financial services for these underserved communities, such as digital payments, fintech solutions, tokenization, and these innovations can be real catalysts for inclusive growth.
Harnessing open finance ecosystems and implementing public policies that promote responsible use of financial services are vital opportunities to address these challenges.
That's why FINLAC, led by the IDB Group, to bring together all the practitioners in this field is key.
FINLAC aims to understand the barriers to financial inclusion in key market segments, promote digital transformation with a special focus on users, improve payment ecosystems with an emphasis on fast digital retail payments.
We can engage with products and services like remittances, electronic payments, work on institutional development, digital innovation, and fintechs.
This includes working with financial institutions to develop concrete strategies and value propositions that foster financial inclusion and address the needs of MSME.
FINLAC will allow us to generate policy-relevant knowledge and data, test innovative business models, and disseminate recommendations and best practices.
Through FINLAC, we will continue to work with our partners, taking advantage of the opportunities offered by digitalization and building an inclusive financial future for Latin America and the Caribbean.
Let us embrace a future where financial inclusion can be a reality for everyone.
As you can see, financial inclusion is at the heart of our mission at the IDB Group. We firmly believe that improving financial inclusion in Latin America and the Caribbean requires collaboration and coordination among various stakeholders, the public sector, the private sector, innovators, academia, and international organizations. FINLAC was established precisely for this purpose, to serve as a bridge connecting all these sectors with the central aim of fostering financial inclusion and improving lives. In our narrative, the region is now facing what we call a triple challenge: increasing social demands, weakened fiscal accounts, and a persistent problem of low economic growth. In this context, financial inclusion is a key to successfully addressing these challenges, as it can boost economic growth and productivity, tackle informality and tax compliance, and provide financial services for vulnerable and low-income households. Financial inclusion is connected at least to 13 of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. It's critical in the fight against poverty and inequality, improving economic growth and innovation, empowering women to reduce gender disparities, and much more. Despite the progress made in recent years, Latin America and the Caribbean still face significant challenges in facing a widespread financial inclusion, with millions of individuals and businesses lacking access to formal financial services that are essential for their economic empowerment and prosperity. Only 4 out of 10 adults in Latin America report using credit or debit cards to conduct their transactions. By comparison, 8 out of 10 adults in OECD countries use payment cards for their transactions. More importantly, almost 20% of adults lack a bank account, and 30% of adults do not use digital payments yet. As is the case in many other dimensions, the use and access to financial services is fairly unequal across the region. However, there are reasons to be optimistic. After the pandemic, the region witnessed very rapid growth in digitalization and the use of online payments. In fact, the region was the global leader in growth of online sales. Behind this unprecedented growth, there is a huge effort from multiple actors. The private sector has adopted digital financial tools and encouraged their use by their customers. Innovators have developed new digital payment technologies. The public sector has also played a key role through regulations and incentives for low-income households to adopt digital payments, for example, using cash transfers. Latin America and the Caribbean is at a tipping point, and our actions are crucial to accelerate change. And the IDB Group is very well positioned to be a driver of financial inclusion in the region. For over 30 years, we have been at the forefront of promoting financial inclusion as an investor in public policies, a business facilitator, a producer of evidence, and a thought leader. Since 2017, the IDB Group has approved more than $13 billion in operations related to this cause. However, increasing financial inclusion requires strong partnerships across sectors to ensure that our efforts are impactful. We cannot do this alone. With our extensive experience, resources, and cross-sectoral approach, no other institution is better suited to tackle this challenge than the IDB Group. This is why we created FINLAC, and FINLAC will be the IDB Group's one-stop shop for financial inclusion, as James pointed out in his introduction. FINLAC aims to be a coordination device across multiple actors, serving as the IDB Group's front office for financial inclusion topics. FINLAC will help the IDB Group provide comprehensive solutions to our clients, and I stress the word comprehensive, increase the development effectiveness of our operations, and leverage synergies across sectors to expand our project pipeline and mobilize resources. FINLAC will bring together the expertise and resources of the entire IDB Group to enhance financial inclusion in Latin America and the Caribbean. Our goal is to ensure that all actors in Latin America and the Caribbean are integrated into world-class financial systems. And we have 3 main objectives. First, we aim to reduce the egregious gaps in the use of financial products in the region, particularly among women, indigenous people, people in the Amazon region, Afro-descendants, immigrants, and people of the silver economy. Second, we strive to reduce the gap between the region and OECD countries in the use of digital payments. And third, we will work to ensure the adoption of key proven innovations to increase financial inclusion. And let me provide some examples of how the IDB Group has promoted coordination between the public sector, the private sector, and the startup ecosystem to improve financial inclusion. In Ecuador, the IDB delivered an assessment of the payment system, which was used to design sound regulations. Through our Connectivity and Financial Market Division, we brought together over 150 stakeholders and 22 banks, including representatives from both the public and private sector. In Peru, IDB Invest took advantage of regulatory changes supported by the IDB to be the first equity investor supporting cajas municipales, the financial entities at the front of financial inclusion. In Guatemala, IDB Lab worked with Genesis Empresarial, the nation's leading microfinance institution, to introduce nano loans, and IDB Invest supported expansion of their operational capacity. FINLAC will ensure even greater collaboration in the future to enhance the success of all our activities aimed at broadening financial inclusion and offering comprehensive solutions. FINLAC will work in three core areas. First, FINLAC will be the front office for financial inclusion, ensuring that we can effectively serve our clients. In the public sector, this will include operations, responding to requests for technical assistance, and engaging with regulators and policymakers. In the private sector, it will also include investment and projects with financial institutions. And we will also focus on innovation, catalyzing ventures, empowering startups, and promoting entrepreneurial activities. Second, we will use our extensive experience to generate data and knowledge to support our clients. Our focus on evidence-based practices and policies will ensure the impartiality of our responses. Finally, we will create partnerships to support evidence-based practices, working closely with governments, the private sector, investors, donors, and experts. We have been working hard to move FINLAC forward. To showcase our work, we created a website where we highlight key projects from across the IDB group, demonstrating our commitment to advancing financial inclusion in the region. We are also creating a knowledge repository of our work under the 4 thematic areas of FINLAC: people and businesses, with an emphasis on marginalized populations and micro and small firms; digital transformation; payment ecosystems; and open finance. This will help us understand the barriers to financial inclusion for key market segments and drive progress in these critical areas. I'm trying to pass some slides, but anyway, we have created a new data dashboard on financial inclusion information from thousands of indicators across several databases. The dashboard helps us summarize information for 26 countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. And in collaboration with our partners, we hope to keep improving and refining this data. The database is organized into 4 broad categories: financial system, infrastructure, barriers to access, and product ownership. We have been working on a report on payment systems, assessment, and recommendations, analyzing 10 countries across 5 areas: access and use, infrastructure, actors, regulation, and innovation. This is a major undertaking because it aims to understand the payment ecosystem of each country using a common framework. For FINLAC to succeed, we need strong partnerships. Many stakeholders are interested in this topic, as demonstrated by our attendance today. We have had many conversations with central banks and regulators, including important discussions with the Central Bank of Guatemala. We believe that by pooling our expertise and resources, we can make substantial impact on the financial sector. Acknowledging the critical need for engagement, we are planning an event on financial inclusion that is needed to foster knowledge exchange and networking. Additionally, we are establishing partnerships with global institutions like the World Economic Forum, the Institute of International Finance, and the Bank of International Settlements, alongside key partners such as Amazon, MasterCard, Visa, LackChain, and many others. These partnerships underscore our commitment to collaborating with a wide array of industry players to accelerate progress toward our collective goal of improving financial inclusion in the region. I would like to take this opportunity, and this is the final slide, to invite all of you to get in touch with us directly through our website or reach out to any of the members of the FINLAC team. And we are eager to hear your ideas, discuss potential collaborations, and work together to drive financial inclusion in Latin America and the Caribbean. As mentioned, your participation and support are crucial to this initiative's success, and we look forward to engaging with you as we embark on this exciting journey together. Many thanks. And I now pass the microphone to Marisela Alvarenga, Managing Director of Financial Institutions of the IDB Invest. Marisela will moderate the first part.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the launch of FINLAC and to our crucial panel discussion on From the Ground Up, Insights on Advancing Financial Inclusion. I'm honored to address you today as we gather here in person and virtually to deliberate on a topic that transcends borders and impacts the lives of millions. Let us begin by acknowledging the progress that James and Eric was mentioning about promoting financial inclusion in Latin America and the Caribbean across a very diverse region. But still, there are still challenges. So while firms have seen notable improvements in access to financial services, household inclusion lags behind. So our mission is clear: to bridge this gap and ensure that every individual, regardless of their socioeconomic status, has a rightful place in the financial ecosystem. So I'm grateful to our panelists that are joining me here today, and we have somebody online. So I would like to invite Pedro Ramos, Treasury Superintendent, Banco Cooperativo Sicredi. Sicredi is the first financial cooperative initiative in Brazil. There are more than 7.5 million members and are present throughout the whole country, with more than 2.7 thousand branches distributed in more than 100 cooperatives. Thank you, Pedro. Edgardo Perez, who is online. Hola, Edgardo. CEO of Genesis Empresarial in Guatemala. Genesis Empresarial specializes in economic and social development. Edgardo has been a banker for over 40 years, working as CEO in several financial institutions. Currently, he is a board member in Cerice SPTF, Redacción, and Redimif, and also works as the CEO of Genesis Foundation Guatemala, the largest MFI in Central America and the Caribbean. Hola, Edgardo. Jory Ambruster, CEO and co-founder Ethic Hub, a crowd-lending social impact collaborative ecosystem startup. Jory is working in the intersection of Web3 and impact, leveraging on smart contracts and cryptocurrencies to transform the coffee supply chain since 2017. So thank you all. We're going to start our good panel. So without further ado, let's start with the conversation. So innovation and scalability are often mentioned as key challenges in developing financial solutions for underserved communities mainly. What do you believe are the most effective strategies for overcoming these challenges? And how have you applied these strategies in your own work, and how do you expand financial inclusion? So Pedro, let's start with you.
Thank you, Maricela. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm honored to be here in such an important event. It's challenging to appoint what's the most effective strategy, but I can share what Sicredi has been doing to overcome this challenge. Sicredi first is a cooperative bank system with more than 100 cooperatives, and we have 2.7 thousand branches, and we are present in the whole 27 states of Brazil. And then by aggregating our cooperative into the system, we could scale up our activities and bring technology and innovation and extensive range of products for our members and for our cooperatives. Actually, we joined forces and centralize maximum activities inside the central without our cooperatives loss their autonomy or their local strategies, because this is vital for our business. And then nowadays we have more than 4,000 people in our central or head square. We dedicated to bring solutions for Sicredi. Then we create scale to work more efficiently and allow us to compete with the major financial institutions in Brazil. And then nowadays we have 300 products available for our members, and many solutions directly for administrative solutions for our companies. And what we learned with this episode about Sicredi, we learned that if you join companies with the same purpose, sometimes you can overpass the real challenges. Sicredi started with a small cooperative in the countryside of Brazil, and now is the 7th largest financial institution in the country. And then we believe if we connect different companies with the same purpose, we can go further, especially with inclusion. Regarding innovation, we have, of course, a department that's looking for this aspect, and they are looking for opportunities, looking for technology, and testify the initiatives. But I believe the biggest difference about Sicredi between other financial institutions are the fact that Sicredi has the capacity to understand the needs of the members and bring to the headquarters, test these ideas or assumptions, and then prioritize this in our planning. And I believe this process is very important to get a shortcut to powerful solutions. Sometimes we are in a lab looking for solutions, and then a real conversation with people that really need some solution sometimes is more insightful than others sophisticated solution. Then we believe, for our perspective, that sometimes to be simple, it just ask for the people what they need. Sometimes is better than rocket science. Then we can say that important look for the client or for the member to bring technology and improvement, especially for financial inclusion.
Thank you, Pedro. I like that. Simple. Sometimes we look for the complex solution, but it's better to be closer to the client and understand their needs, and then provide a simple solution that really tackles that. So, Edgardo, I will go from Brazil to Guatemala. Can you please tell us about your experience? And thank you for being here.
Well, I thank you very much for the invitation. It's also for me an honor. Congratulations for the IDB group for the launch of FINLAC. For sure, it will be a great impact for the Latin American countries in searching for accelerating financial inclusion. Well, financial inclusion for us at Genesis has a different meaning. As a foundation, a nonprofit foundation, for us, financial inclusion has to be paired with financial inclusion with positive impact, as we call it. Our mission is to alleviate poverty, and financial inclusion needs to be paired with positive impact in every product that we design and we develop. So for that being said, the key challenges for us are first understanding the markets and the limitations on how to reach them. Markets are not the same, rural areas, especially in Guatemala with high migration rates, mostly women populations in our villages. We have to be very really cultural pertinent with the solutions that we develop. That means that we do not tailor-make or we not customize solutions. We try to tailor-make them based on different markets and niches that we serve. So that comes with one of our probably the biggest challenges, that it's overcoming low levels of education. If we do not customize products the right way and we do not educate, there's a high rate of misuse of these products that at the end of the day comes through in financial exclusion more than financial inclusion. And then we challenge also ourselves into how to provide access to technologies that are compatible with what we do and how those technologies are being used on a regular way. So at the end of the day, when we talk about financial inclusion, there needs to be the biggest challenge is first the recurrent usability of the technologies, and then the positive impact of these technologies and the quality of life of our customers. So the strategies are based basically number one, it's education. And also education, it's not from our point of view, it's not customizable education. We need to tailor make our education programs that are going to reach the populations that need to be reached on different ways, either personal education, all the way to videos, all the way to even phone education with the contents that are pertinent to the populations. In our digital solutions, as Guatemala has a complexity of 23 different cultures, the design on the UX of the solutions has to be very specific and also customized. So we test, and the strategy basically allows us to test and retest our offerings, mostly in-house at the beginning. And then we've come to the conclusion, Hennessy is an institution that grows at a pace of around 35% a year, its customer base, with high quality delinquency rates. We are always around 1 and 1.5% delinquency rates. So we are very careful on how these tools, especially loans, are allocated, because if our goal is to reach 1 million customers in the next few days, in a few years, we see most solutions rating around 30-40% delinquency rates. So the exclusion rate, the financial inclusion of these customers are really enhancing our challenges to compete at a higher level. So it's a step-by-step process in the product design and adaptability, because the quality control of usage for us is one of the most important strategies in performing at a high level in markets that are vulnerable, especially when our mission is to alleviate poverty.
Thank you, Edgardo. If I can summarize, one of the main messages that I get is, how do you blend education within the product design? So that and I tied it to your comment on simplicity also. So, Yori, what's your take here?
Innovation for sure is super cool. First of all, thank you very much for inviting. I am very proud to be here, and I think IDB is doing a super important job on betting on innovation, which is for sure core to change how this reality that it is 1 billion, 3 billion, depending how you account for the people excluded from the global economy in one or another way. And I think is core to take risk and bet on innovation, disruptive innovations. As IDB, Dieter and Fernando, they were super ambitious, bold, I don't know the word, to bet on something so new and risky as we were in 2019. And I think it is important to have in mind that these disruptive innovations happens in the startup space, because already established corporations at the end innovate for sure, but their innovation is more about using proven technologies to improve their actual proven and profitable business model, not about creating something so disruptive that would compete with their actual business models. And Facebook, Google, these kind of new actors have this very clear in mind, and they are fighting to not lose their startup DNA. But also they are doing like, okay, if there is a startup that could compete in the future with me, I buy it. It doesn't matter the price. No? So that's why they Facebook paid 16 billion for a small startup with no revenue at all. Yeah, and I think they did the right thing, because that were had the potential WhatsApp to disrupt Facebook. And maybe here there is a bank that want to spend a couple of billions on buying Etihad. I'm here to talk. Regarding scalability, I don't see that we should focus that much on scalability. For sure, it's important, but there is another kind of approach, which is, for example, local currencies. Mutual credit, local currencies is something that fascinates me a lot, and maybe we should empower these local non-scalable solutions based on trust, instead of trying to expand the financial markets to them. The reality is financial markets work very well for already established and educated actor like a big company, but it doesn't work that well for a local unbanked farmer. So maybe what we should empower is providing them with the tools to pre-sell their crops or pre-sell their services in the form of vouchers or something that it can be, and provide interconnection from that local systems to the world economy. So you can buy their mutual credit local currency when you go to rural Guatemala and to pay for the lunch. But they can also sell their local currency for fiat money, so they can buy computers and things that they cannot produce locally. And I think in Etihad we call ourselves Etihad because at the end technology is not good or bad. I like what Edgardo said, no? That the important thing is that we deliver things that impactful. They are impactful. It's not only about innovate. It's about not leverage on technology to be more scalable or create new ways of doing things, but use them purposeful, no? In a purposeful way. So, because at the end, technology can be used for good, for bad. Internet was used for the best things in the world, like Wikipedia, and also for very bad things. So I think when we call ourselves Etihad, is like, okay, we want to let you know that we care about the negative externalities of what we do, and not only money. So you better think the same way.
Okay. No, it's good that we think about technology also as a mean to an end, and the end will be like more financial inclusion in this case. And talking about technology and digital transformation, I would like to go back to Edgardo and talk about your challenges, because as Eric was mentioning, and James also, about how we work within IDB Group, is that we have IDB Lab, who works more in entrepreneurial startups. Then IDB invests more on growth stage of the companies. And with IDB, obviously, we leverage on the public sector regulations and how we can enable the environment for more private sector. So talking about how we started with you, Edgardo, on the digital transformation within Genesis and the work that IDB Lab did with you, and how you see the challenges, the benefits, how you work with the clients, because you were mentioning education, but clients, how do you transform the institution from within to get to the clients and increase the financial inclusion of your clients?
Thank you. Well, when you have alleviating poverty as your focus in your daily job, as you can imagine, it becomes an extremely challenging operation, because the purpose, it's not about making money or allocating products. For that to happen, the first challenge is we need to construct a culture of excellence, because there's no way to alleviate poverty if you don't perform at an excellent level. So the digital transformation for us was probably a defining moment that started for us probably 8 years ago. And the challenges in several ways, because redefining the business model, the traditional business models, and redefining the traditional processes is a big challenge when you're trying to build different ecosystems that will impact the quality of life, both socially and economically, in the people's lives. I'll give you a very brief example of what that means. So we have a very successful agricultural product that we lend to our smallholders, farmers, very small farmers. We lend them money. And we're very successful. We provide climate tools, digital tools. And we also do the same for the markets where these products are sold. In a traditional manner, this could be an ongoing business, and it's good for we help our farmers and we help our markets. So when we talk about digital transformation, we think about how do we integrate the market with the farmer, because today there are many intermediaries in the value chain, and the farmers are the one that get the least amount of the percentage of the value chain in the profits. So now we think, okay, how do we integrate these through technology? Now the farmer can access the markets through a marketplace of the local markets, and the local markets can access the farmers in the local areas. So they can now that we have a dynamic between farmers and markets that decreases the amount of players in the value chain. For this to happen, we need to have also digital solutions for the payments. And this was one of the first projects that we started with IDB some years ago. And we constructed the first ATM, really full function ATM network. Over 150 ATMs were put in place thanks for the support that we got from IDB. This network serves today over 400,000 customers nationwide, where you can get a remittance, you can pay a loan, and you can also access customers through the network. Also, training capacity, funding. It's been critical for us. IDB has been a really fantastic partner for us across the years in showing us also available technologies that might impact the transformation that we've been having both internally and externally. I would probably say that as I mentioned before, training and it's been one of our main focus. So we've been developing a lot of technologies for training. So the way that we access these markets and the way we address these challenges through high levels of creativity and innovation is dedicating resources specifically for that through market studies, market visits, lots of team meetings, and of course, as always, the voice of our customers, which are mostly women in rural areas, is the voice that we hear every day in order to make this digital transformation a reality for them. Because at the end of the day, what matters most is, as I mentioned before, the usability of these technologies and the benefit that it has in the quality of life, either by the products we serve, the use of those products, and the time that they save using those products. It makes them more productive.
Thank you, Edgardo. I will go back to you, Pedro, on how do you take advantage of the new technologies, new challenges, and new channels to get to all the millions of people throughout whole Brazil?
Yeah, actually, Sicredi, we actually, our CTO says we have a superpower is our relationship with our members, and not because relationship is important to provide a very good experience for the members. That's a very good asset for any company, but our relationship provide for us information that common data cannot provide. I mean, common data, registry data, cash flow, or any age, what else? And then when you are close, we can get some information about the behavior of the person. If the person is organized financially, if the person is engaged with their jobs. There's a lot of human behaviors that data cannot fit well yet. And then when you are close, you can capture this this information, and then creating a capacity to work with the groups that the screening process of the risk is much more difficult to or complex to execute. That's why cooperatives is not just Sicredi, but others cooperatives around the world can work with small companies, small rural producers, and people with lower income, because we have a capacity to screening better and give the correct risks for each group. For us, small company is not a one group. There's a lot of groups inside of this group. And then I can say that our recipe to achieve these people are to be close and understand their needs and measure correctly their risks. Even with a lower a priori risky group, in the end, Sicredi usually have a half of, in the last decade, a half of delinquency rate and the average of Brazilian financial system. And then we believe this come from this capacity to screen. From the economic theory point of view, we decrease asymmetric information, and then we can go further with credit. That's I believe there is two dimensions in financial inclusion. The first one is payment deposits, and the second one is loans. It's much more difficult, these steps. And we believe our capacity to be close is a very important tool to overcome the challenges to provide credit around the world and Brazil.
Thank you so much, Pedro. I will go to you, Yuri. You were talking about new technologies. You are using blockchain, AI, Web3, everything within your company. So we were talking about using technology as a mean to an end, but there are risks. So can you tell us your experience in terms of how do we tackle those challenges and risks that the technology can bring?
Yeah, sure. First, we are not yet using AI. AI, I don't think, has a prominent role on financial inclusion. For sure, it helps to build better credit scores and things like that, but that's not super core. For example, what's the name? Starlink, I think, will be much more prominent on financial inclusion evolution, as it will deliver internet connection to all those smallholder farmers, which are the majority of the excluded in rural areas with no internet. And blockchain for me is like the new back end for the financial system. Is the future of the back end, while Web 2 or traditional fintechs were basically innovating on how on the front end, no, on how they interact with their customers. But at the end, the infrastructure still was the same. With blockchain, what we are changing is the opposite. Is focusing on the infrastructure layer, and which allow for different new business models, new ways of reaching users. And I think for now have been underperforming. I mean, this happened also with internet, no? That with the .com bubble at the end, everything will be internet, and then it was underperforming, and nobody believed that that was nothing, and then it really was something very important. And now all the petrol companies are not anymore the bigger companies in the world, but the internet companies. And I think that is happening now with blockchain, that it is going through this stage of disillusionment to a new phase of delivering the value it promised. And I think also for Ethic Hub, for sure, that we are close to that disruption point, no? In which the linear growth we think as humans is it was better in the early stages, but when these exponential technologies reach this point, they start growing much faster than the traditional technologies. Like with fax, I always put, for example, that, or with DNA sequencing, they spend and then the 99% was done easily afterwards. And for sure there is a lot of risk, but also in whatever way we deploy technology, there is risk. And I think, as I said before, the important part is if we as entrepreneurs are doing it purposeful or just for making money as meme coins. No, for example, is a use case for blockchain that I hate because it tarnish all this sector with these easy profits and for sure 99% losses afterwards. And but there is a lot of alternatives. For example, the CK technology, zero knowledge proofs, is a way that, okay, everything is public, distributed, secure, etc. But there is a way that leveraging on cryptographic zero knowledge proof, you can hide all the information behind. But you can prove I am that person, but nobody knows I am that person. And I think all these new startups leveraging on Web3 and with purpose, no, we call it ReFi, regenerative finance, and the regenerative part of it is the important part at the end. The other is just the technology. It is about not thinking anymore only on financing, but have a more holistic way of how to create value for our users, all the stakeholders, and not only one kind of stakeholder, which used to be the shareholders, no? Normally in traditional financing. And I think that is the future that we should push for.
Yeah, definitely. No, thank you so much to our panelists. We have heard from leaders in financial inclusion in different segments in different countries around Latin America and the Caribbean. We have heard from a microfinance institution leading in Guatemala, Brazil, from a federative of cooperatives, and from a fintech. So it's very exciting what they are doing and how we can improve financial inclusion throughout the region. Financial inclusion matters. Financial inclusion is a catalyst for empowering our economies. So FINLAC will be the platform that we will use as a IDB group to showcase the best practices. In this case, the best practices that the private sector are pursuing. So the magic lies in the collaboration that we're going to have among public, private, and entrepreneurs so that we can create and enhance this ecosystem. In closing, let us remember that financial inclusion is not an abstract goal. It's about a lifeline for millions of people in Latin America and the Caribbean. So thank you so much to our panelists, and I will pass the word to Anderson.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me to moderate this session. FINLAC is a great staple for the connectivity markets and finance division that I'm leading at the IDB. But as we thought, like the great strength of this is the great example that we need to come together now with solutions that are full IDB groups. So I really also congratulate all those involved, as Eric was mentioning in the beginning, for this initiative, because this is a great achievement and also a kind of a demonstration of much more that we can do in many different areas. No? So the title of the session, Driving Inclusion Through Payments, is at the heart of the actions of what the ADB Group is doing to support public policies focused on increasing financial inclusion and financial well-being in Latin America and the Caribbean. No? This morning, as was mentioned here, we were talking about the IDB BIS project called Fully Scalable Settlement Engine, or FUSE. No? We are very proud of this partnership. It was an event that we are amazed that we had a full house at 7:30 in the morning, and it was really exciting to see this action, like this partnership with BIS moving to action with such an initiative. No? So we are proud of this partnership, which will amplify our capacity to address the roots of the roots, like the causes of the financial exclusion in the region, and then create institutional capacities, the technology, everything to bring more financial inclusion. But now, let me tell you, like I'm pleased to introduce this fantastic panel that we have. We will have here three different perspectives where we'll hear about payment systems and innovations for improving the lives individuals and firms in Latin America and the Caribbean they're having. No? These goals are a complex task that we know it requires what we are talking here about, this coordination, public, private, and getting several forces together. So we'll have here, what we'll have is a thought-provoking, informative conversation that explore the challenges and opportunities in expanding financial inclusion in the region and how we can promote these synergies between stakeholders from public and private sectors. With that said, let me briefly introduce you to the panelists we have today. Let me start with Mrs. Sylvia Constein. Welcome. Sylvia is the Senior Vice President, Head of Latin America and the Caribbean Government Engagement for Visa. Among her past duties, she was Minister of Information Technology and Communications in Colombia, Public Policy Manager for the Southern Cone at Facebook, among others. She holds an executive MBA from MIT Sloan School of Management, and she's an economist from Universidad de los Andes in Colombia. No? We also have Mr. Darren. Welcome, Darren. Who is Senior Vice President and leads the public sector team for Latin America in the Caribbean in MasterCard. In this role, he engages with local and national public sector leaders to increase MasterCard's relevance and collaborate with governments on their digital transformation efforts, financial inclusion, and modernization of public finance. So he holds both his undergraduate and master of international business studies degrees from the University of South Carolina. And then last but not least, a person who is almost part of our house, Mr. John Frost, is the head of economics for the Americas at Bank for International Settlements, the BIS, our partners in FUSE, as we were talking about. In his 15 years of experience, he has held several positions at BIS, was a member of the Secretariat at the Financial Stability Board, senior economist at the Bank of the Netherlands, among other positions. He holds a PhD in economics from the University of Groningen. So to start our conversation, and then I'll actually move here to have a conversation in a more informal setting. To start our conversation, I'll open with a general question. And each of you have 3 minutes to comment based on your experience and insights. Then we will start the conversation later, like more specific questions, deeper. No? But the first question is, I want you to think of 2 public policies that you think could work to increase the levels of financial inclusion in Latin America and the Caribbean. So let me start with Sylvia. Your turn.
Thank you, and thank you very much for the invitation, and congratulations to the IDB for bringing us all together to talk about this very important topic. We very much look forward to the work within FINLAC from now on, and this is a great kickoff, so thank you very much. As I was reflecting on this question, I decided to step a little bit away from strict financial inclusion to what enablement means for financial inclusion. And if you ask me two things, I would say the first one has to be connectivity. The people that we are still not reaching are those people in either very bottom of the pyramid or very much in rural areas. And connectivity is an enabler for that. And granted, my past is in communications, so I can never really leave it. But I think that is incredibly important. And then the second area that I would say public policy can make a huge difference in is financial education. And going back to this idea of being connected and being digital, is it enough? The answer is no. The answer is we have hundreds, thousands, millions of people who have a phone in their hand, but who literally don't use it to interact because they're not part of the formal financial system. And I think that's something that we need to do very intentionally. We need to do very targeted. And as one of the panelists was talking in the prior session, it really has to be tailored for each of the different needs. It's not a one size fits all, go for it, educate, and put it up on the internet. That's simply not enough. We really need to bring financial education into the daily lives of people. And so I think if we can do those two things, and not as just governments, but as a society, we can really make a dent in financial inclusion in Latin America and the Caribbean.
Thank you so much, Sylvia, for those thoughts, like really the foundations, no? And I'm also very attention, like, with a big attention, because connectivity is the first word of CMF, my unit. But now let me pass to John.
Thanks so much. Yeah, so I think that I found the previous discussions really interesting and important, and I think that in this region, in Latin America and the Caribbean, one of the amazing things is that we do have some success stories. We have some really good practices. It's a very diverse region, many different experiences across different countries, but we do have policies that have been used in practice that have actually helped and created a lot of progress. And so, we've done research on financial inclusion and digital payments in the region. And one thing that we find very clearly is that in countries with higher use of digital payments, you have benefits including higher GDP growth, higher productivity growth, and also reduced informality. And of course, in this region, we see a very high, share of the workforce that's informal. We see a high, estimated share of economic activity that's informal. And so, this is a huge benefit of greater use of digital payments, that it allows, for the formalization of informal activities, and that can mean greater social protection, greater social security, employment security for real workers, especially those who are most vulnerable. So in response to the question, I think two foundational policies that are very important. So one of them is the simplified bank accounts that we see in a lot of countries. This has been extremely powerful. We've seen, a lot of countries that having these requirements, allowing both banks and non-banks, requiring basic transaction accounts has been extremely beneficial. And a second policy that's very complementary is the launch of central bank-run fast payment systems. And we've done quite a bit of research on this, on fast payments, on design and adoption. Of course, we know about Brazil, as everyone knows about Pix, and the tremendous success that has been achieved in Brazil with Pix. Which is, I think, related in very large part to some of the key design features that it allows non-banks, that it's required for the largest institutions, that it also, has this very large number of use cases. And so we've done work on that and seen that Brazil, I think, is, in many cases, a poster child for the success of fast payment systems and has a lot of lessons. But we've also looked at Costa Rica, for instance, at Simpe Mobile. I know we have Governor Madrigal here in the audience as well. Simpe Mobile in Costa Rica has also been very successful, and I think another great example of combining these really key design features with also the simplified accounts, and a number of other policies that complement it. So if I had to choose two policies, those would be the ones that I have. And of course, I'd be very happy to talk a little bit more later on about some of the design features of the fast payment systems that are particularly powerful.
Thank you very much, John. And we'll certainly get back to this with more detail and especially also seeing the potential that this project Fuse could help have in expanding this. Let's go to Darren. Darren, what about you? What do you think would be the policy?
Thank you, Anderson, and thank you to the IDB group for this launch. We have been working on financial inclusion since 2015, which started with Ajay Banga, who you may know now has a new job. And since 2015, we have helped include hundreds of millions of people, and Latin America has been one of the regions that has done so much. The first belief we have is it is an ecosystem. It requires the collaboration of tons of different players and policies and innovations that understand that it is in fact an ecosystem that supports inclusion over the long term of individuals and businesses are the kinds of policies that we need to make this sustainable. We recently did some research into the included population over the last couple of years, including during COVID. And we found that of these people that we interviewed that were recently included, 15% of them were included because they had a new savings account in a bank driven by a government social assistance. 9% of them, same thing, they had government assistance coming to them for COVID from the government into a digital wallet. So both of those things, it's government digitization of payments as well as going as social assistance being digitized, as well as going into a digital wallet, which would not have happened if there wasn't previously open innovation and fintech industry development, right? Those things are examples of policies that are interesting and happen for immediate inclusion so much during COVID. Back to education and all of the other things that we need to think about. What we don't want to happen is for them to be immediately included, but then not supported. They have to be educated. It's about education and their neighborhood. Education so that they know they're safe with their debit card. They know what a credit card is. They know what else they can do. All of them budget, save, manage their finances, even in cash. If they can learn how to do those same things via technology and new solutions, that will help. If in their neighborhood also they have where they can use these new tools and solutions, then that drives daily use and ongoing sustainable use so that they stay in the system and don't just be immediately included and then leave. So policies that think about that long-term sustainable inclusion as well as the ecosystem that is needed to support it, all the different types of players that are involved, those are the kinds of things we think are important.
Darren, thank you very much, because you bring such it's actually like a very holistic way that you need to look at these things. No, we were this morning talking about, there is a big technological aspect, but in the partnership we're doing BIS here and seeing how we connect, because all this part of also like a literacy, the capacity building that you need to generate in the system, how they connect well together with the technology. It's not only about technology, but the two, right? So with that, John, let us shift here to the second part, that we go after this general, start like more specific questions. John, Pix that you're talking about, the Brazilian Central Bank fast retail payment system, runs around 4.4 billion transactions with 151 million individual users, or 70% of the adults in the country as of February 2024. It seems to have a relative success in adoption vis-a-vis other solutions in the region, even with businesses which are adopting it massively. And we'll go back to this point of business use. We expect to witness the rise of fast payment systems in Latin America and the Caribbean. What potential do you see for these systems to promote financial inclusion, and what are the biggest challenges to scaling these solutions effectively, particularly in developing economies? What can we expect from them to increase cross-border payments, for example?
Very good. So I think, the statistics on Pix really are credible. And we've written together with colleagues from the Central Bank of Brazil about the experience with PIX. So we have a BIS bulletin from 2022 when the experience was still relatively fresh, and even in its first year after its launch in November 2020, there was this massive take up. And now in March 2024, we put out a piece on in the BIS quarterly review on fast payments design and adoption. And among other things, we've tracked the transactions per capita in different countries that have a fast payment system. And it's notable that PIX it's continued to increase, and it's on the order of 2 transactions per person per day. And there are a number of factors that have played an important role. So we've done regressions looking at different fast payment systems, the transactions per capita against a number of design features of different fast payment systems. One fundamental point that we found is that central bank operated fast payment systems seem to have higher adoption than those that are privately operated. And that can relate to the fact that the central bank operates them as a public good, as a public infrastructure that's open to all rather than as a closed garden. Often incumbent banks, when they do run a fast payment system, they tend to make it less easy for others to access. We found that non-bank participation is very important. That was also a key feature. This was allowed in Brazil by the 2013 payments law. But non-banks also play a very important role, e-money providers. So that was quite important. The high number of use cases. What we couldn't measure in the regressions, but we think is very likely a very important point is this mandatory adoption in Brazil. All banks with 500,000 or more customers have to sign up for PIX. And that's a distinct difference, for instance, with my home country, the United States. FedNow, of course, is not mandatory. The Federal Reserve System has to, convince banks to sign up, and that's a very different, also in terms of, getting network effects. So I think, what's notable with PIX, with Simpe Mobile in Costa Rica, with other systems that have been, have seen mass adoption, you do see the network effects. If I'm using it, and Anderson is as well, and we use peer-to-peer payments. We have a positive externality on one another, so that's more likely to promote adoption. And I think that the infrastructure has also scaled very effectively. So far, we've seen, and this is, I think, a very distinct contrast with a lot of cryptocurrencies, public blockchain systems that until now have had these, I think, severe scalability issues. Relates in part, to some of the design features of blockchain. We've not had that issue with central bank operated fast payment systems. That said, you do have to keep up with the demands that'll come up in the future, and we know that if payments transactions continue to increase, then at some point we may need, and that's why projects like Fuse are very important, that they can really account for very large demands on payment systems in the future. I'll just talk very briefly about the last point on cross-border. So as more and more countries in the region adopt fast payment systems, one of the big areas of promise is linking those together. And certainly, in a lot of cases with remittances, we think there could be a lot of potential of linking fast payment systems. Also for cross-border trade, Latin America and the Caribbean, has, I think, relative to other regions, relatively low trade between individual countries. There's a lot of trade with the United States, not as much between neighboring countries. So a lot of this could be supported, and we've seen, in other cases like Project Nexus by the BIS Innovation Hub, there is a lot of potential to, link fast payment systems and to allow for really seamless, instant settlement of these payments in different jurisdictions. But it seems that the regulatory challenges are the more important ones than the technological ones. And so getting that agreement between different countries about the regulatory requirements, the messaging standards, all of this seems to be the area where a lot of work has to be done. And I can imagine that, institutions like this one would be also well placed to work together on that.
It is a huge agenda. We have I wish we could see ourselves 5 years ahead, how these things work. But I see that there will be a lot of tailoring by countries to actually reach success. No? On how we will be very country specific too. Sylvia, we had in the beginning here the session the statistics, that shows that 30%, almost 30% of the adult population in Latin America and the Caribbean do not have access to a financial service account. No? Payments could be the entrance door for those excluded. So reflecting on that very wide, vast experience that you have had, So reflecting on recent advancements in digital payment solutions, could you highlight one transformative project or program, be it globally or in Latin America and the Caribbean, that has significantly improved access to financial services for the unbanked and underbanked populations? And in your opinion, what were the determinants of the success?
Absolutely, thank you. I'm going to say that one of the policies and projects which I think has made the most difference in the lives of many people who have to take public transportation every day is to be able to pay digitally on public transportation. That is something that in some cities people take for granted, but it's something that isn't really present in most of Latin America and the Caribbean. And the halo effect of being able to use public transportation is huge. It involves things from when you start having digital payments in public transportation, all of a sudden, all the small and medium enterprises that are around those stations start accepting digital payments. And when a small and medium enterprise starts accepting digital payments, all of a sudden it realizes that with digital payments comes something that is incredibly important, which is data and knowledge. It helps them understand how much they're selling, what they're selling, if it's going fast, if there are days that are better than others, where when you're doing it in a way that is much more manual, you just cannot get that information. So it actually creates entrepreneurs of these small and medium enterprises that are actually also data savvy. And I would say that that is just one example, but for me, I believe that the fact that we include or get public transportation to be part of this digital ecosystem and digital payments ecosystem in particular really does expand financial literacy, financial inclusion. And I'm going to go a step further because I think that we're talking a lot about financial inclusion, and we need to talk also about formalization. How does payment support formalization? How important it is for there to be the awareness within a small and medium enterprise of the fact that if you're receiving and managing your business digitally, you will be much more likely to be able to get a loan. You will be much more likely to be able to get public funds from the many programs that support small and medium enterprises, and you will be able to sell much better. You will be more in the digital ecosystem and not just the digital payments ecosystem. So I see payments as really an entryway, a window of a much broader digital environment that brings so much to small enterprises, to the gig economy workers, and really just makes lives a whole lot easier. So that would be my favorite.
Silvia, really loved the answer because in three aspects. Now, the chain effect that you mentioned, and then two factors that I'm going to explore in my next question to Darren, which is the data that you get with this and the formalization. Because my question will go into the MSMEs angle, Darren. Like we have a challenge with micro, small, and medium enterprises in the region. And we know how relevant they are in the region for jobs, for growth. And then, as I mentioned before, PIX is being adopted massively by them. Almost a third of the transactions in PIX today are enterprises. If we add up the possibilities created for open finance, then the relevance of such milestone could be even larger. So do you have an example of how can we empower MSMEs, this micro, small, medium enterprises to enter the financial system, which in turn could lead to formalization, formalizing them? And then the second question is in the other point is that how can then we get them to have great access to credit based on all this data from payments that are being generated?
Simple questions. It's all formality, right? So we're excited about the volume explosion of the PIX transactions that has clearly uncovered the latent demand that was there for small value transactions that are very easy, that can happen everywhere by so many Brazilians. And as you say, also the P2P has increased P2M, right? And that's also very important. The more we can do to understand those transactions and how also they can continue to be a credit record or a record of transactions for the merchant, that's what leads to formality, right? P2P digitization itself does not necessarily equate to formality eventually. There are other steps in the process to get there. There have to be, I think, also balanced incentives for the ladder of micro, small, medium, different types of businesses, different sizes of businesses to be formalized, right? There do have to be, I think, balanced balanced incentives and a ladder of the different sizes. That's important to understand how they can be motivated to be formalized, and that's a longer panel perhaps for next year. But the other part about just the business itself, if you think of a classic small and medium business, they're in the middle because they are taking payments and making payments, right? We saw this in COVID. They all went online to accept payments, otherwise they would not have survived. So they take payments, they make payments, but the other part about that is they also are making payments to their employees, right? So if there is now a relationship with the government about how they're paying employees, and there are incentives there for them to formalize because they also have this relationship and are making digital payments to employees, that's another angle of all of this that is potentially something to help us unlock informality as well. But the overall ladder that we see in consumers also exists in small and medium businesses. You know, debit account to credit, to use it in transit, to use it in the neighborhood. The same thing happens for small and medium businesses, making and taking payments online, but also accessing credit, building credit history that can get you more loans. And the thing I think that also is important in both of those areas, in consumer and in small and medium businesses, is the intentionality, right? It's not enough just to say the excluded or the rural or the women or the indigenous. It has to be more specific design of products and services for them, accompanied by education that helps them safely enter and progress through this ladder of more sophisticated and more appropriate financial services for them.
Excellent, Aaron. So we go back to the holistic from the way you started. No, it's really like a whole range of issues that need to be interconnected and thought beforehand, no, to make this really effective. But I'll go into this line because we will need to close, but we cannot close without your recommendations to FINLAC. No, so that is my last question is, we are having this effort, we are putting like all this effort together with Bid Lab, Bid Invest, no? And then all different areas now of the IDB research, etc. What would be like recommendations you'd have for us, and be candid about it, so that we can be really effective and really take the most of this initiative. So, just as a closing statement and recommendations for us, please.
Thank you. So I would say the most important recommendation is that we're not going to fix this alone. It's not in one company, it's not in one organization, it's not in one government. We really do have to work together. And so listening is a really important part of creating solutions for very specific problems. We work very closely with the IDB and with the World Economic Forum on the Payments to Advance Growth project, for example, Pagatu, which is going to start right now. We want to work much closely on the Fuse project, for example, which we just learned about this morning. So I would say that would be my recommendation, to really open the doors to many different voices to help in the construction of the solutions, and obviously after they're announced as well.
Thank you very much for this, but let me tell you, the doors are wide open, and then we'll be very glad to follow.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with that. We clearly work together also, for example, on industry standards, which are vital to the expansion also of adoption in transit, as an example. I think the holistic approach, my keyword for the day, is vital. It is a large and complex region. with all kinds of players, from banks to technology companies to central banks to merchants to the consumers themselves and the small and medium businesses themselves. And so as we think holistically, I think we also have to have a balanced approach, right? So make sure we are avoiding unintended consequences, or we're avoiding only doing access for today. Access for today, immediate inclusion is not the same as sustainable inclusion over time. And finally, I would say we've been doing financial inclusion for a very long time, as well as cross-border payments for a very long time. So we're happy to help there too.
Thank you very much. And I think that would be important, this mix of this practice that we have with some of the research you mentioned in the beginning, so that we really learn the lessons of not having like these flights that are not really sustainable. No, so very good. Thank you very much, John.
Yes, so I just wanted to react to Darren mentioned earlier, being very excited about the peer-to-merchant payments with Pix, and I'm glad you say that, because not everyone in your organization was very excited about that initially. And
all for the good of the region.
Yes. I do think that we've seen over time that as this has taken off, I mean, Pix payments have grown very rapidly in Brazil, but card payments have also increased, debit and credit, and so it seems that a lot of the substitution is away from cash payments. So really, Pix is competing. So it shows that these things are not necessarily exclusive. I mean, this can be complements. And certainly for merchants, we've shown in our research that the average merchant discount rate for credit card payments in Brazil is about 2.1%. For debit card payments, at 1.1%. For Pix, it's about 22 basis points, and they get the money right away. I mean, this is a key advantage to merchants. On the other hand, we know that there are certain protections with credit card payments, and debit card payments. So in the end, I mean, these are giving consumers more options, giving them choice, and that's turned out to be, I think, a very useful and successful thing. So I think we hope very much that it will be possible for the private sector, to see the enlightened self-interest as well, that it can be good for everyone when there's a vibrant ecosystem with many different options. And so my advice for the IDB colleagues is just be bold. Sometimes there will be things in the short term that you have to overcome. But I think that we're contributing to public goods. We want something that will really be useful for society in the medium and longer run. And so I think that staying with that, having an eye on the policy goals, that's very important. So be bold, stick with it, and we'll be very happy to work with you.
Thank you very much. So we are going to be bold with doors open. So we are going to be jointly bold for comprehensive approach. Okay. So I wanted to finalize this. Like, I thank you all very much for this interesting conversation. Now we get here now, as we noted in the beginning, that achieving real inclusion beyond access is a complex task. Now you require comprehensive solutions. And we are very proud to be presenting FINLAC, getting these recommendations for you that we are listening very carefully and we will implement. So thank you all very much, and applause to the panelists.